Hey everyone, my name's Jason Bell, and this is episode number 41. In this episode, I'm back at Texas Card House playing 1-2 No Limit Hold'em. Yes, this is my third video in a row from TCH, but stay tuned. I am planning on going to Vegas really soon, so expect some videos to come out of there pretty soon. But here, I am glad to finally not be card dead anymore, so this was a fun little session. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's get right into it. Okay, in this session I take my seat a little after 12 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. In this first interesting hand, we're six-handed. I'm in the hijack position and look down at a nice one, ace queen of diamonds. There's a $5 under the gun straddle on, and I open the action for $15, which is pretty much my standard open with a straddle. The guy to my left in the cutoff position makes the call, and the remaining players fold. Now, it's a bit early to get a read on this guy, but given we didn't see a 3-bet, pretty unlikely he's holding any premiums. So we're heads up to a flop, which is 9 deuce king with 2 hearts and 1 diamond. Now, given I'm out of position, I think a case can be made to either check or bet here, but I really only have one over and some backdoor possibilities. Plus the board is pretty wet, so I make the check and the cutoff puts out a bet of $20. Okay, now we can start figuring out his range a bit. I don't think he's got ace king offsuit or king queen, given I've got those blockers, and I think he would have raised pre-flop with ace king suited, but he could have king jack or maybe king 10 suited, or he could have a couple of hearts or maybe pocket nines. I float here with my backdoors and plan to continue if a diamond comes on the turn, and the turn is the 10 of clubs. Okay, I check here and hope we can see a river for free. Really only have a gutter draw here, but nope. This time the cutoff puts out a bet of $30. Yeah, this is pretty small in relation to the pot, but with my 4 outs, I'm not getting the equity, so I'll let this one go. Okay, this is a couple of hands later. We're still six-handed. Here I'm in the big blind and look down at ace-5 offsuit. There's no straddle on in this hand, and the under the gun opens the action for $10. Cutoff makes the call, and I call as well, and I think if this were suited, I'd probably consider raising this one up, but I'll make the call here instead. So we're 3 ways to a flop, which is 8-3 king with 2 spades. Okay, another king-high flop, and pretty similar to the previous hand too. Don't really have much going on here, so I make the check. The initial raiser checks, and the cutoff checks as well, so odds are nobody's got a king here or even a couple of spades in their hand. The turn is the jack of spades, so the front door flush gets there, but I don't think the spade's connected with anyone given the post-flop action. I check and have to take a look at my cards again to make sure I don't have that ace of spades, and I don't, but while I'm checking, the under the gun puts out a bet of $15. Cutoff thinks for a bit and puts out the call. Yeah, even if a spade does come on the river, don't think a 5-high flush will get there, so I'll let this one go. Yeah, technically there's a chance that it could, but not worth it here, so I throw my cards into the middle. The river is the 7 of clubs. The under the gun checks, and the cutoff checks as well. The under the gun shows king 9 of clubs and takes this one down, and the cutoff mucks. Not much going on here, but glad to be playing a bit more hands right off the bat. Didn't get that luxury the last several sessions, so this is pretty good. I'll take it. Well, as soon as I think that, this hand's about 30 minutes later. Here I'm in the low jack position and look down at king 10 of spades. We now have a full ring of players at the table, and the straddle is not on in this hand. Now, given I'm 40% of the way to a roll flush, I open the action for $12, my standard unopened raise in a 1-2 or 1-3 game. The hijack makes the call, and the remaining players fold. Now, he could have anything here from a small pocket pair, probably all the way up to 9s or so. He could have a suited connector or a couple of broadways as well. So we're heads up to a flop, which is 5-8 ace rainbow. Well, so much for the royal flush. I check given I didn't really connect with this thing, and the hijack checks as well, so likely he doesn't have an ace here. The turn is the 5 of spades. I check again, and this time he puts out a bet of $10. Yeah, even though this is a pretty small bet, not worth it here, so I'll let this one go. Again, not much going on, but trying to figure out these folks at the table. One guy's working, a few look like they're retired, one's in college and likely on summer break, and a couple are some regulars who may or may not be doing this for a living. Hard to tell at the moment on this random Thursday afternoon in June. Okay, buckle up for this one, folks. We've got some Thursday afternoon action in this hand. Here I'm in the +1 position and look down at a premium, pocket kings. The under the gun limps, and I raise this thing up with a bet of $15. Pretty much my standard when there's a limper in front of me. Folds all the way around to the button who decides he wants to play for a bit more and puts out 2 green chips that when added together make a total of $50. Folds back around to me, and no question I'm raising this one up again with a nice little 4-bet. But what's the right sizing? Now, he's got about 150 left after that $50 raise. Yeah, I think a jam it is, so I throw out a green chip myself and announce all in, and the button snap calls. Uh-oh, I immediately ask if he's got aces, and he shakes his head no, so that's a relief. So we're heads up to a flop, which is 10-7-9 with 2 spades. Okay, that's good. One of my kings is a spade. The turn is the ace of clubs. Oh, man. But the river's the nice one, the king of diamonds. I show my pocket kings and the button muck, so I take this one down. That'll work. Okay, this is the very next hand. I'm in the under the gun position and look down at ace queen offsuit. Yep, just won quite a bit in the previous hand and some of those chips are going right back into the pot. So I open the action here for $12. I notice the +1 on my left gathering a bit more chips than 12 and he puts in a nice little 3-bet, $45. Folds all the way back around to myself, and given I've got an ace and a queen blocker, this is screaming one thing at these stakes: pocket kings for sure. Wishing my cards were suited here though, it definitely make for an easier call, but I decide to float here anyways, hoping to hit an ace on the flop. And we're heads up to a flop, which is Jack 10-7 with 2 diamonds. Well, okay, if he does have kings, he's gonna let me know. I check, and now he puts out a pretty sizable bet of $75, and yeah, this is a pretty easy fold, but I put on a bit of a show here for about 10 seconds or so and then lay it down. I asked him after the hand if he had kings, and he said that he did, and he looked pretty shocked that I guessed it, but just put 2 and 2 together based on what I had, the board, and his bet sizing. Okay, before we get into this next hand, which is about an hour and a half later, no, I didn't take a break, and no, my phone didn't die, but the table turned very nitty. I raised pre-flop several hands, none of which made it to the flop. I also called a couple from the big blind and the button, and none even made it to the turn. You know, is this how it is for the Thursday afternoon crowd? Not sure, but a few new folks have now sat down at the table, and because of that, it's a little less nitty from here on out, just a little. Here I'm in the middle position seat and look down at a nice one, pocket tens. +1 limps, and yep, raises in order, so I raise this one up to $15. Folds all the way back around to the +1 player, and he makes the call. Now, usually on a Friday or Saturday night at TCH, this raise from the MPC would have probably gotten at least 2 to 4 other customers, but only have one here, and that's okay. Definitely have a better chance to win when heads up versus multi-way. So we're heads up to a flop, which is 7 queen 4, all hearts. Well, crap. Well, odds are he didn't flop a flush. What, it's less than 1% or so? Same with the queen, not likely to hit that either. He checks, and will a bet take this thing down right now? It might. So I put out a bet of $15. He thinks on this for a bit and makes the call. Warning bells are definitely going off a tad, that's for sure. The turn is the 5 of spades. He checks again, and I think I want to slow down a bit. I'm in position and don't want to build this thing up in the event he's got a queen or a couple of hearts. There's not much that can improve my hand except for maybe one card, the 10 of diamonds, and I don't think the 10 of hearts would help. That would put a one-liner to a flush. So I make the check here. The river's the deuce of diamonds, pretty much a brick unless he's got ace-3. He checks again, which tells me he didn't really connect at all, with the exception of maybe the 7 with like 7-8 suited. But I'm happy just to take this to showdown, so I check and show my 10s, and they're good. +1 mucks. That'll work. Okay, this is a couple of hands later. I'm in the under the gun position and look down at king queen of diamonds. Yep, 40% of the way to a royal, so I open the action for my standard $12. Folds all the way back around to the big blind who defends. Yep, everyone is definitely scared of an under the gun open, so we've still got a relatively tight table, and we're heads up to a flop, which is 4-9-8 with 2 hearts and 1 diamond. Big blind checks, and I put out a continuation bet of $15 with my 2 overs and backdoor diamond draw. He doesn't take too long and puts out a raise to $40. Okay, I'm now shooting myself in the foot. This flop for sure hit the big blind's range, and given this is a relatively tight table, he most definitely is raising for value here. Now, if he's got a couple of hearts, they're only, 2 kings and 2 queens in the deck that'll help me. He could have something like 9-10 or 9-jack suited, maybe pocket 4s or 8-9. I decided to let this one go given the dynamics of the table and the board. Call me nitty, but I think it's the right decision here. Okay, time to change up the strategy and loosen up a bit given the tightness of the table. Here I'm on the button and look down at 4-5 of spades. The under the gun limps, the cutoff limps, and yep, I'm in the best spot at the table and raise my 4-5 suited up to $20. The under the gun calls, which is pretty much expected when folks in that seat limp, and the cutoff folds. Now his range could be nearly anything from that seat with an open limp, with the exception of the premiums. Now he could have limped with ace-king offsuit, but a little unlikely. But for sure he would have open raise with jacks through aces, so we're heads up to a flop, which is deuce 10-10 rainbow. The under the gun checks, and when the table's tight, I think most folks will fold to aggression. I don't have much going on here except some backdoor possibilities, so I put out a bit of a bigger c-bet this time around of $30. Doesn't take too long and makes the call, so does he have a 10 here with like jack 10 all the way through ace 10? The turn is the 7 of spades. Okay, the backdoor spade draw is still alive. He checks, and should I continue barreling here? Again, not much going on except a spade draw. This is a tough one. I check and hope to see a spade on the river, and the river is the king of spades. All right, flush city central. He checks again, so that pretty much tells me I'm not out flushed here. But what's the right sizing if he's got a 10? I think maybe about a 2/3 size bet might do the trick. So I put out a bet of $65, and he doesn't take too long and makes the call. I show my 5 high flush, and he mucks. All right, could I have gotten 3 streets of value here had I continued on the turn? Possibly, but I'm still happy the way this turned out, so I'll take it. Okay, folks, this is a fun one. Here I'm in the cutoff position and look down at 7-8 of spades. The hijack opens the action for $10. Now, I think a raise or a call is fine here given my position, but I decided to go with the call route as I've raised most every time I've entered the pot this session so far. So changing things up a bit with a call, and both the small and big blind players call as well. So we're 4 ways to a flop. Finally, some Texas action, which is king, jack, queen with 2 spades. Okay, that's not a wet board whatsoever. Both of the blinds check to the pre-flop aggressor, and the hijack puts out a pot-sized continuation bet of $40. Now he's betting into multiple people with this wet board, so he's likely nailed this thing. Could have 2 pair or a straight here, but gotta stick around at least one more street with my draw. This one's a bit different than a couple of hands ago given my implied odds, so I stick in the call, and both the small and big blind players call as well. Holy smokes, did everyone connect with this thing? Maybe. The turn is the 4 of diamonds, pretty much a brick. The blinds check, and the hijack now jams for his remaining stack of $250. Okay, let's do the math here. I've got, 9 outs, so that's about 18% equity here, but what are the pot odds? The pot's $450, and if I call, the pot would be $700. If both of the blinds call, and the small blind has about $80, and the big blind has about $100, the pot would be almost $900? $250 for me to call into a pot of $900 is a little under 30% or so, and the math just doesn't work out. Dang. Really want to stick around and gamble here, but gotta be disciplined, and I'll let this one go. Man, the small blind puts in his remaining stack of about $80, and the big blind quickly folds, so the hijack and small blind are battling this one out. The hijack turns over 10-9 offsuit for the flop straight, and the small blind turns over ace-king offsuit. Man, he just called pre-flop with that. Kidoki. The river's the queen of spades. Oh man, I would have gotten there. Geez, that sucks, and the hijack takes this one down. He said after the hand that he wanted to price out any draws, and it definitely worked on me. Good bet, good sir. Okay, this is a few hands later. I'm in the small blind position and look down at a nice one, ace queen of diamonds. The under the gun player limps. The low jack raises to $15. It folds to me, and given this hand in my position, this is a raise nearly 100% of the time. So I announce a raise and throw out 2 green chips. Big blind gets out of the way along with the under the gun player, and the low jack takes a look at his cards again and makes the call. Okay, given he looked at his cards, odds are he doesn't have 2 of the same suit. And we're heads up to a flop, which is 5, 6, 8 with 2 diamonds. Yes, sir, nut flush draw. I will take that, and a C bet is definitely mandatory here, so I take the same bet route and throw out 2 green chips again, which I think is a bit too much. The low jack takes a look at his cards again and throws them into the muck. Well, at least I got something here. Now, would have a $25 bet work here, though? Maybe. Okay, folks, this is the very next hand. We're about 3 hours into the session, and this is the last recorded hand of the session. Here I'm on the button and look down at king queen offsuit. Hijack opens the action for a whopping $6. Yep, raising this one up for sure, so I bump it up to $20. Folds back around to the hijack, who makes the call. Now, given his initial raise sizing and his call, very unlikely he's got any premiums here. So we're heads up to a flop, which is ace 6-3, all clubs. The hijack checks, and I check as well with this monotone flop, but I have to check my cards again as I can't remember which of mine is the club. The turn is the ace of diamonds, and the hijack quickly throws out a bet of $40, nearly a pot-sized bet. Yeah, he's telling me he's got either an ace or a high pocket pair here. I've got, 9 outs and 18% equity again? Yeah, he's not giving me the odds, and I let this one go. Even if I did get there with a club, no guarantee a flush would win this thing, so I throw my cards into the muck.